Oh, right. After reviewing a couple of non-LarryBoy videos, I was thinking, what was that Bible story about Dave? Now, I'm not talking about the Dave that famously took down a giant. Well, we kinda are talking about Dave, but hear me out. I'm talking about the time when David grows up to be king. By the way, they foreshadow that in Dave and the Giant Pickle. But what happens after Dave adapts his status as king? Well, according to the Bible, he spies on a woman who's the wife of one of his loyal subjects. You see where this is going, right? David then plans to have his servant killed so that he could hide the fact that he was secretly banging the guy's wife, basically impregnating her. The woman's husband dies in battle, giving David the chance to swoop in and marry her. However, this does not fly well with the prophet Nathan, who tells David that he and the woman's child will die because of this sin. So yeah, David's story can be summed up like this. He takes down Goliath when he's a child, but then he steals another guy's wife when he's an adult. Who would have known? But if VeggieTales was gonna tell this particular story of David, the hero turned king, they were gonna have to plan the story and script carefully. So it's like Big Idea said, let's switch out the woman for a child's toy and call it a day. And what do you get? King George and the Ducky. Since VeggieTales knew better than to show infidelity in a video, they instead opted for a man-child king trying to steal from a kid. Okay, fair enough. So where do we start? Well, let's skip the fact that Jimmy and Jerry tried to host the show by being imposters. Let's skip the fact that they show a film about bananas and strawberries, which, by the way, has no ending. It just stops. So both parties are in a stalemate because they don't want to share, I guess. And then the film dies. And so did Jimmy and Jerry's time as hosts. Yeah, don't be selfish, huh? But also, don't be an idiot. By the way, Endangered Love is this video's silly song. Fun fact, I used to have a crush on my LarryBoy plushie. So we're not so different after all, Larry. Let me introduce you guys to the greatest love story of the year. Yep. So we learned that King George, played by Larry the Cucumber, is obsessed with his rubber duckies. But he definitely sucks at being commander-in-chief, seeing that his army is being slammed by this great pie war that they speak of. But don't worry, folks, we won't see any scenes of the war in this story. No, they just talk about it as if it's just another day at the office. Okay, so we set the table, right? So, what's our king's first order of business?
Because I love my duck.
Good start. He loves his duck so much that he'll change his clothes back to his towel when we literally saw him come out of the screen changer in his robe. Good work, animators. And he'll also curl up in his bed like a teenage girl fantasizing about boys.
Because I love my duck. I don't know.
Okay. Not sure why that camera angle is a thing. You gotta imagine the storyboard artist being like, what? That's not what we had in our notes. But the animators were trying to see who could animate the weirdest crap, and one of them came up with this gem. It's like if I decide to shove the camera, even though I know it's there and I know it's turned on, you would be like, okay, why did you do that? So that caught me off guard. But what doesn't catch me off guard is the fact that His Royal Highness has to pay a quarter every time he uses his own binoculars. That's sad. The coins even have your face on it, George. Get real. Now, I assume that he's gonna go perv on some woman bathing. Or creepily spy on a kid in his bathtub. And when you know it, the boy's got a ducky. And King George wants it. In fact, he wants that ducky so badly that he'll sing a song about it.
I must have it, I must get it, you must go and get it for me.
Lewis, played by Bob the Tomato, tells King George that he has plenty of duckies already. But of course, George doesn't care.
Those are yesterday's duckies.
God, you act like those duckies are a pair of shoes. Well, sorry if those duckies are out of season. I also love how Lewis tries to correct King George's grammar.
Well, you couldn't be more wronger.
Did you say wronger? It's more wrong, not more wronger.
Don't question the king's grammar.
If this ain't the perfect example of being triggered, I don't know what is. But the Army General Cedric comes in to tell us the bad news.
The pie war has grown ferocious.
Yeah, so ferocious that you guys show a flipped version of an earlier scene. I'm not joking. And I saw this video a few times already. So not only do they not show us what the war looks like, they also recycle footage. Good to know. Anyway, King George sees this as an opportunity to send the boy Thomas, played by Junior Asparagus, into the pie war at the front lines. For what reason? Well, to steal the boy's ducky. That's why. This dude basically volunteered a minor to go into battle without telling him, and for the sole purpose of stealing a toy. Because his toys are so yesterday. So, how are we gonna go about this heist?
Alright, follow me. And try to act inconspicuous.
God, this is making the wet bandits look like professionals. Jeez, that would be funny seeing these two in the same story. Okay, wait a minute. Were those police sirens? Well, in that case...
Cops is filmed on location with the men and women of law.
Anyway, back to your silly quest for the sacred ducky.
I finally found it. Now who's gonna stop me?
No! Cedric comes back to tell us that Thomas is a war hero for defending the army. They don't show us how he did that, but it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Incoming! Boysenberry at 3 o'clock!
I'm afraid he's lost his mind, sire. The trauma of war.
You do realize that PTSD is a serious issue, right?
What? Hold your tongue, infidel!
And we don't normally use the word infidel. Come on, dude. Hold your tongue, servant. Hold your tongue, fool. But infidel sounds pretty harsh, even for a kid's video. Anyway, the kid is screwed up and he's sent to his room. But King George can care less because he wants to be alone with the rubber ducky. Ugh, no comment. Opportunity knocks again, but this time it's Melvin, played by Paw Grape.
Have to tell you a little story.
Not now. I'm gonna go take a bath. Come back at bedtime.
Okay, so what's the story about? As I was saying, Melvin starts his story by showing a rich person with a house and a lot of sheep. But before that, we get to learn what a flannel graph is.
It's a flannel graph to illustrate.
Ooh, flannel graph.
Very interesting. Well, I don't have flannel, but I do have crayons, so, there you go. Here's my flannel sorta whatever thingy to illustrate.
Okay, great story. I'll see you next time.
Wait just a minute. My story isn't done.
Melvin reveals the second person who only has one sheep. But when the rich man has a guest at the house, he selfishly takes the poor man's sheep to feed the guest. This apparently gets King George upset.
When he had lots of sheep and the poor man only had one. Man!
Man!
He will spend the rest of his days locked in my dungeon.
So, does that mean that he'll send himself to the dungeon? 'Cause this flannel graph story is all about him. I'm telling you, all roads lead to you, George. Or maybe he's just that dense. Of course, Melvin reveals that the story is actually about King George. Surprise, surprise. God, you're acting like Scooby-Doo.
Really?
Let me tell you, this was never a mystery. There's nothing mysterious about the fact that this king obsesses over a child's toy. He's so obsessed that he's willing to go through great lengths to obtain it. He's willing to steal from a child and send that same child into a war that doesn't make sense. And give that child PTSD. So Melvin gives him advice on what to do now that he's been exposed for his selfishness.
Ask God to forgive you. Ask Thomas to forgive you. And then make it right.
And grow up.
Louis, draw a bath.
What?
Am I in heaven?
No, silly.
So this is where King George apologizes to Thomas. Alright, let's hear it.
King George told Thomas what he had done.
Yeah, we don't have time to animate King George apologizing to Thomas, so we're just gonna tell you that he apologized.
King George prayed and asked God to forgive him too.
Yeah, let's all gather inside the bathroom and end with King George learning his lesson. Too bad he doesn't learn a dang thing about grammar.
Work, but it worked.
Wait a minute.
No, it worked.
Wasn't.
Not gonna lie, this video is funny to watch. I mean, say what you want about the Bible story that this is based on, but something like King George and the Ducky gets me laughing every time I watch it. It's weird, it's outrageous, it's childish, it's stupid, and not to mention, it's memeable. And who cares if there's a Great Pie War going on? They fleshed that out in Duking the Great Pie War. A child gets traumatized? It's okay, just sweep it under the rug. There's a very fine line between kid-friendly and being risky. This video is leaning more towards Rack, Shack, and Benny standards. So for what it is, it's a silly story about a silly king who has a very silly obsession. And as for me, well, let's see what King George is hiding in his cabinet. Isn't there one ducky in particular that he's so protective of? Oh, wow. It's the next review. Anyway, you're gonna have to guess what my next review is gonna be. Sorry. Otherwise, head over to Patreon or become a channel member to find out what I'm working on next. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and all that shebang-a-bang. Also, check out the All That Shebang-a-Bang podcast. And as always, this has been your girl, LarryBoy Fanatic, the eyes and plunger ears of the LarryBoy multiverse. And I'm gonna go cuddle with my LarryBoy and Junior Boy plushies, cause I don't know. That's the world we live in, folks. Don't judge.
What you want? What you want?